Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WREVA Electrifying News April 2024 edition. With me, as always, I've got Mr. Eric Stevens joining us from the Listowel area. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. Glad spring is finally here.
We hope.
Sure, you never know. You never know.
It's a roller coaster ride. You never really know. But we will see. We will see. Also joining us as regular, this time not from Mexico, we have our good friend Ian Graham from downtown Kitchener. How are you today, sir?
Do I? I come back to Canada, and this is what I get. And it's not the sun above me. It's my. I miss the real sun that I have.
What do we got first, Ian?
All right. Some lovely news.
Yeah.
Here we go.
What we've got here is Ford has announced recently that their Oakville plant is going to be delayed in producing EVs for about 2 years. They did have an initial start date of 2025, and that has been pushed back by the management of Ford to 2027. And they're certainly looking, or they're saying there is a bit of a slowdown. This is still going to happen. We still want the workers. We're going to produce EVs in Ontario, but we have to slow down a little bit to get all our ducks in a row. As many have known, a number of different EV makers have had a bit of a slowdown in the uptake of EVs in North America. And Ford may be playing on this a little bit, but they're indicating that they need a little bit more time to get everything ready to produce EVs in Oakville. I had put this story, I believe, last week on our Twitter feed, and someone responded back with, "Why would Doug Ford be saying that we can't make EVs till 2027? I'm like, okay, it's not Doug Ford. This is Ford Motor Company. So easy mistake to make, but this is the story here, is that Ford management has decided there's going to be a bit of delay. And of course, the union, Unifor, is they're a little bit upset about it because, of course, they saw their employees being transitioned from certain jobs into and the training on the new EVs. That's not going to happen. So Unifor, of course, is anticipating that there could be timing delays, and the transition from certain current projects to the EV may have some negative effects, that maybe some workers are going to be laid off for some periods of time. Again, Ford is trying to dispel these rumors and say we're all working towards this. We're going to get there, but we really don't know what the effect is going to be over these next 2 years. But certainly Unifor is looking out for their unionized workers, and they're trying to make sure that they have other jobs to do as we're on this bit of a waiting timetable.
Yeah, I think there's several factors going on here with Ford. This is just sort of my supposition, I guess, my opinion or my thoughts on this. First, Ford obviously has, 2 major EVs on the market for the most part, the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E. Both of these products, they haven't been on the market for a huge period of time, but they've been on the market for a few years now, and they're starting to see some fierce competition. They're no longer the most advanced vehicles in the market now. There's new EV trucks and and the midsize crossover space on the EV scale is also, landscape is changing very rapidly right now. And there's a lot of new products coming to the market. And so the Mach-E is not as competitive as it used to be. And even the F-150 Lightning is not as competitive as it used to be, its price point in specs. Or a lot of people are seeing what's coming as well, too, what's being launched in the market and what's coming to market. And they're, I think, holding back some of the purchases right now. So I think Ford is seeing that right now. And I think Ford is seeing that, they can't discount the F-150 Lightning or the Mach-E anymore, or they start losing money on those products as well, too. So I think Ford is taking a look at their portfolio today. I think they're taking a look at what it needs to be competitive. And, they've delayed some technologies. I think they have some technologies in the pipeline. I'm guessing they're planning certain things by 2027 where they'll be able to hit certain cost targets and certain performance targets by then. And I think that's where they've just shifted their plans a little bit now. This is my theory. What I think they're doing right now is they just look at the competitive landscape and they're seeing what it would take instead of rushing a product to market this year and building it in Oakville that may or may not be competitive. They're going to wait till 2027 to hopefully launch something that will be competitive.
Mm-hmm. This week we just also had the federal budget, just got put through, and there's some definite changes in there, and different aspects that I think can impact this market, and impact for how people are going to consider buying, future vehicles as well. The other thing, of course, is we're dealing with the U.S. with the presidency. The race is coming up for November. Who knows wherever that's going to go? I'm kind of bringing up the political aspect of this as well, because politics affects lives, governance, finances in so many ways. And when you're it's one thing when you're dealing with your own household. And your decisions that you're making, when you're dealing with a company like as big as Ford is, and as long as they've been around, I don't think that they're. I think they're being cautious to a good sense, to kind of see how things are going to play out over the next year. Because the other thing too is interest rates. We're still kind of waiting for those to get cut down again. Ford also is not the only company, as we've been finding out recently. There are some other EV companies who are doing, hold-offs. There's layoffs. There's been holding off and different things as well. And, everything is not just Ford. It's the whole market in general that we have to kind of take a look at and see. I know with Unifor, they're saying they're disappointed in that. But, again, I think they're just being cautious in a good way until we kind of see, put it this way. If June comes along and the Bank of Canada says, oh, we're going to cut interest rates again, interest rates are not just because somebody wants to buy a vehicle. It's the company as well, in their own, strategies that they have to do on this aspect of things. It affects all types of business on that. So yeah. I think Ford's got a great product. And anyone I've talked to with the Ford Lightning and a Mach-E, they love it. Especially with the Lightning, I'm hearing some really cool stuff that they're doing, like even just, powering parts of their home if there's an outage, or just, that aspect of things as well. So, you know what? Even Ford getting into the EV market has been kind of like slowly going into it. So this next part of things, it doesn't surprise me on this respect as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point there. And I just want to add that sometimes some of these delays and some of these pushbacks in capital investments from the automotive industry isn't just affecting EVs; it's affecting their business in general. So in some cases, they're delaying projects in general because there's concerns that a recession might be coming. So in some cases, they're delaying. They don't want to build out an infrastructure and build out a whole bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden those sales don't materialize. So, as you said, they're being cautious right now, and they're just they're putting a pause on things, just to see how things play out, I think.
Yeah. So
more to come on this over the coming months. So
yes. All right. This was a really interesting YouTube video. Of course, we have our links on the channel, and I really enjoyed watching this. And of course, one of the companies mentioned here, Lithium Americas, is a company that I've been watching for a while, and actually did some investment with a little while back, and then sold. And fortunately, the company's gone down in the stock a little bit, but it's still it's around. It's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, so this is a Wall Street Journal article here. I was looking for the written article, but it looks like just the YouTube video I was able to dig up for this one. But they talked about Lithium Americas, and one of the largest lithium deposits in North America and in the U.S. is located in Nevada. And General Motors purchased a significant portion of Lithium America there. And the permits, as you mentioned, can take up to 10 years time, but apparently now Lithium Americas now has the permits. So they have the permits now, and they're going to be starting to produce commercial grade lithium on the sites at scale very shortly. So I think, domestic supply of lithium, we talked about a lot of companies in Canada doing a lot of this stuff. Obviously, Quebec is also a good source of lithium. The article also talks a lot about Tesla and nickel as well, too. And now Tesla is investing heavily in a company that's producing nickel in the U.S. as well, too. So
Michigan, I believe.
Yeah. So it's a good article basically overall, and it's showing how automakers are trying to source domestic supply for a number of these things as well too. There's big investments and the whole supply chain infrastructure going in for the automakers basically, all the way from the lithium, nickel, all the way up to, of course, battery cell production, battery assembly, and then vehicle assembly.
I have to say that the U.S. government that put this IRA in place, put this whole system in place to try to draw companies out of places like Asia, China, where all this stuff is currently being done. I think this is a great gameplay that they made. We still don't know if they're going to be completely successful, but the early stages here, we see a lot of capital and companies moving to North America in order to cash in on the $7,500 federal credit that the U.S. is giving out for electric vehicles if they match the criteria that's required, that the stuff is made basically local to North America. And this is... I have to say that when we look at governments a lot of time about the misfunction and bad calls, but it appears that this policy on the IRA is something that looks like it's working. So hats off to them.
I agree, Mark. Yeah, it was a great strategic play. I think historically the North America has been seen as a laggard in the EV industry, and it still is today to some extent. But this type of a policy will hopefully help change that by building a whole supply chain inside and out. And this creates a bit of a vested interest in electrification even from the top down. So people who are working here, people working in this industry, are going to want to see it succeed as well too. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, talking again just about the budget. We still have the $5,000 is still, as far as I can tell, is in the budget for electric vehicles. When you mentioned about the 7,500, now one thing out of curiosity, like with the nickel, because Sudbury, the big nickel. I'm wondering, do you have an idea in terms of comparison, what the nickel mining in Sudbury would be in comparison to this other spot, like the amount, I guess you could say. It was interesting. He was saying the nickel here, like the grade of it is such high quality.
Yeah, he was saying he was getting very high grade nickel out of this facility that Talon Metals, I think it was, that was working with Tesla. So yeah.
Yeah, they were saying that the normal nickel content in ore is somewhere about 3 or 4%. But this Talon mine in northern Michigan was producing 9%. So it's something that obviously makes you stand up and because if you're hauling the same amount of ore out of a mine, but you're able to double or maybe triple the nickel content that you get, obviously that's way more cost effective for you as a mining operation.
Yeah. I'm just curious, just in comparison with something like that. But
I don't know the Sudbury grade numbers that are coming out of those mines there. Maybe that's something we have to ask some of our colleagues up in the Sudbury EVA, see if they know quality of the nickel that comes out of Sudbury.
Write us comment if you know in the comment section of the video. We'd love to hear from you.
See what the how much of it's tampered with because of Canada geese, All right. So this is an interesting article that came out, I think, in the last month, and there's a lot of things that I found, pretty cool about the fact that they've got this, custom-built CO2 sensor called the Beacon 2N. beacon, something like that, 2N. And the big aspect, though, is the fact that, of course, many of us know that in California, the EV uptake is huge. This area of the Bay, they've been monitoring this for a while now. And it's, they're saying they can see the emissions are definitely coming down. They have to come down, of course, that much more. But the fact between 2018 2022, you have all these sensors around, and they're showing about a 1.8% annual drop, 2.6 yearly drop with the vehicle emissions rate. So, we're proving that, yeah, the EV aspect, for our emissions is not only is that good, but then, of course, we're not breathing all this other stuff in from the gas transportation part as well. One thing I found interesting was a recent article. Of course, we're hearing lots about carbon capture and different companies that are working on that. I'm sure these type of sensors, they would want to see what's going to happen within those areas for the carbon capture. But even with the amount of energy that they put in the carbon capture, what they can actually achieve is, still very minimal overall when you're looking at it. So the transition, I think, to the renewables as well as electric vehicles is going to make, everything that much better with the footprint. Quick other note about California that came out was that at least, I'm trying to think if it was 30 or 38 days that renewables basically supplied with between the battery storage and renewables, that the California grid was basically supplied with renewables overall and offset everything to do with any other sort of fossil fuels, like huge and independent of that as well. So again, just another interesting aspect. You change stuff over to electrification and renewables, you're going to have some, we're proving, here's the results. Here's why this is a good thing to do this.
Yeah, it's the Bay, of course, for those not knowing, is the San Francisco Bay Area. And of course, that is the mecca of the EV movement. Started there and has grown dramatically there. If you're used to Ontario and you go there and look at a common freeway, you'd be shocked at the amount of EVs that are on the road. And I know I was, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. This is just continuing to grow. So it's good to see that the University of Berkeley has been tracking this information with all these separate station sensors for the past number of years, so they can really get a handle on what the emissions are and if they're going up or down. I'm certainly glad to see it's starting to work, but as you mentioned, Ian, more is going to be required.
Yeah, I think this is, it's fantastic that we're able to see this and actually see that, hey, these people are making a difference. This is, some good news that, the efforts that we're doing here is a step in the right direction. And obviously there's many more steps that are needed, as you guys mentioned. But it's a step in the right direction, and I think this is also going to come down to EVs by themselves. Of course, are not the only solution. There's going to be multiple solutions that are needed, of course, to combat CO2 emissions and climate change. But again, this is a positive step, and it shows that the efforts that these people are making are making some positive change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's how many times do we hear some people say, like, oh, I don't know if I can really do much? It's not even really the point. It's like, it's what you do, what you can do, and then if everybody this adds up.
If everyone reduces their footprint, then the footprint goes down across the country.
Yeah. And with last night's, the gas price has gone up 16 cents, was it? And I had, hearing the other Ford go on about it, I just kind of had to laugh. And it's just like, what he was complaining about is like, you're complaining about something that's been going on for the last century, really. I'm sorry to hear your bellyache about stuff like this, but this has been going on for a long time, and really you haven't really helped with putting a stop to some of this. But anyways.
It's amazing, Ian. It was almost 10 years ago today that I got my first EV,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember distinctly watching this up and down pricing of gasoline and going, why are we doing this? Like, why does this happen every long weekend? Why does this happen every time we switch from winter to summer gas? What the hell is even summer gas over winter gas? Like, come on, it's a scam. Wake up, people. So it's something that you got to come to the realization at some point. And hopefully our EV group, if you see people complaining about gas, put your positive story in there about EV adoption and how it saved you money and got you out of the gas race. It's something that some people really have to be hit over the head to realize that maybe I should look into this.
Yeah. I had to post it because I saw it today, and I've already had somebody say, like, oh, you're being, cynical or whatever, cocky again. I think that's what it was. But it was a Drake meme. And, it basically was saying, charge overnight, and pay way less. And then the other part of it was Drake was like, no, just going to keep doing what I do, spend hours at the pump over the year, paying 8 to 10 times more.
Yeah.
And, every time I get the argument on this aspect of things, I think a lot of people forget that, cars are not an investment. We can all agree on that. But the overall aspect of it is still kind of an investment. And you know what? Used EV sales have come down quite a bit in price. A friend of mine, he just picked up a Chevy Bolt for really cheap. And he commented, he says, like, 350 kilometers is costing me about $4.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And yeah, ever since the fuel crisis in the 70s, we've seen how politics and things like investors basically doing speculators in the market. They basically drive the price of fuel today. So you're at the mercy of speculators and in some cases, other foreign governments and the decisions that they make about oil outputs and productions to manipulate the price of oil. And not to mention oil and gas companies, which, let's face it, they see the writing on the wall. They see that their future is limited right now. And they're out to maximize their profits today. And they're out, the price of oil is fixed by the markets and speculators, but they can go over and, refineries and rack prices and stuff like that. They can make tweaks and stuff like that to jack up the price in the middleman. So this stuff is happening intentionally today. And there's a whole bunch of interests out there trying to soak up as much money as they can today before they know, because they see the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, well,
I agree.
I think it was November or December podcast that was brought up that 1.8 million barrels of oil every day were not burnt because of an electric vehicle, and because of that number growing. So, like to your point, Eric. Yeah. All right. Now let's talk some fun. This truck. You know what? I'm not. The big size of everything and these guys with the trucks, like, I'm not sure, I need anything that big, but at the same time, I like the look of this truck.
Oh, certainly a lot of us don't need a truck. And I don't advocate buying a truck because it's an EV and you feel that you're saving the world. You're not. Let's be honest. If you're buying a truck, let's use it for a truck purpose. You got a business or you've got something that requires a truck. I get that. You're towing something all the time. I get that. But if you live in the city and drive point to point, and you don't need a truck, but we're glad there are trucks on the road because they do perform crucial tasks in the economy and for people and businesses. And what's nice here is that we're starting to see the advent of the EV truck. We've seen a few of them released already. Chevy has now come out and said the Silverado is coming out in some different packages. Eric and I had seen a few of these at the Canadian International Auto Show this February. And I am glad to see the price has come out, obviously on the lowest trim of $74,699, because we are seeing a lot of sticker shock when it comes to trucks in EVs being $100,000 or more. So it's nice to see that this work truck that they're trying to introduce is going to have a starting price of $74,699. Obviously, it's still a lot of money, but again, depending on what you're using the truck for, it can save you money as well on maintenance and fueling, because those trucks on gasoline are certainly racking up the dollars when you're plugging in $1.80 a liter. So this is something that will benefit some. And again, it brings more choice to the market. And we have more and more people that can be able to switch over to an EV. It wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 years ago, when there were no electric trucks at all, and there was no choice. Now the choices are starting to come, and it's opening up a new segment to electrification, and that's a big plus.
Yeah. So the Silverado EV is an interesting vehicle. There's a number of electric trucks in the market, like the Rivian, the Ford F-150 Lightning, and even the Cybertruck. But the Silverado EV is sort of in its own world compared to these other vehicles. And the reason why I say that is, like the Silverado EV comes with 3 different battery pack sizes. They've launched with 2. The 3WT has the 20 module Ultium battery pack, and the 4WT has the 24 module Ultium battery pack. So they have 2 battery packs available now, at least will be on the market as well too soon. What's interesting though is the 24 module Ultium pack. That thing has a range of 700 and it's almost 800 kilometers of range. It's like 760, 770 kilometers of range. There's actually a number of videos out there with towing videos with the 4WT version, and towing with this thing. 6,500-pound trailer TFL truck in the mountains of Colorado got nearly 400 kilometers of range. And that's towing a 6,500-pound trailer. And this thing has 360 kilowatt charging on it. So this thing is able to DC fast charge. It's a huge battery pack, but it's still able to do an 80% charge in 30 minutes. So, that's now, there's a lot of people saying, electric vehicles can't tow. Well, this one can. And this one can do it actually not bad. Now you've actually got 2.5, 3 hours of driving range with a trailer and with just a 30-minute stop to keep going again. That's impressive. And he was able to do, like, I think Kyle in Out of Spec Motors was able to do the entire Rocky Mountain range and back again. And he had to just DC charge once with the vehicle. It was absolutely impressive. And while other vehicles like the F-150 Lightning, the Rivian, and the Cybertruck had to stop and charge 3 times doing the same thing. So this thing is a beast on the market, and it is a game changer. And I think that's even why when this was coming to market, Ford has announced that they're developing a new F-150 electric already because of vehicles like this. So impressive vehicle. And I think the sweet spot for this vehicle is actually going to be the 20 module battery pack, because not many people need to tow a trailer every day. That's a somewhat niche. I actually think the middle battery pack because even the middle battery pack has 660 kilometers of range on this thing. And for most people, that's still way more than enough. Even the small battery pack, and there's some debate whether GM's going to offer that or not, and even the 2WT version, whether that's coming or not, which is going to be even a lower price. But the smaller battery pack would probably still have close to 500 kilometers of range. So it's an impressive package, and it's going to really cause other automakers to step up their game.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good point about the range, because that was the one thing when the Cybertruck had been finally come out, the price went up, the range was less, and that was one of those things where it's just like, come on, And so then when I saw with the Silverado, what they're doing for range, my bladder's good for about 250, 300 kilometers, and we got the fast charging with with this. It's definitely a game changer with something like that as well. And of course, the one thing too, and this is across all the manufacturers, the towing aspect when you're getting to the charging point, that's the area that I think we're still trying to figure out of how do we do this without unhitching the trailer to then go charge, and then that's just a given, right? When I towed up north a few times that I've done it, like Perry Sound was always like, hey, you gotta unhitch the trailer here, and there we go. Same thing when I took the solar electric pontoon boat up and hit Owen Sound and basically had to unhitch. Not a fun job, you know. So that's one area, but in general, though, like I said, I love the look of this thing. I think they should really name RST to be really sporty truck instead of rally sport truck. But anyways, but I think GM's got a good hit on their hands, especially too. And if they have, like you mentioned, 3 models or something like this. I don't know if anyone's ever bought the license plates, personalized license plate, or they could do ELEC, CB, Electric Cowboy.
And you know, eventually there is supposed to be, you know, a whole full lineup of vehicle, not just 3 models. There's going to be the 2WT, 3WT, 4WT. There's supposed to be a Trailbot or a AT4 off-road version. There's going to be a whole bunch of different variants all across the board here eventually of the Silverado. So they're going to expand this out quite a bit, and they're going to even eventually have 2 assembly lines building this in North America. Currently it's being produced at the Factory Zero Detroit Hamtramck plant. But then they're going to be tooling the Lake Orion facility to produce these as well too in 2025. So they're going to be, and then there's the sister vehicle to this as well too, which is the GMC Silverado EV, which is a very similar vehicle, same powertrain basically.
GMC Sierra, right?
Yes, the GMC Sierra. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So GMC Sierra EV. And it again, also it'll have many variants and many different stuff as well too. It's launched in Canada as well too, where the Denali version is, you know, they've recently announced they're dropping the price on that as well too. So Denali version is similar, almost similarly priced to the RST version of the Silverado EV. So,
wow,
very good.
Yeah. All right. And of course,
oh yes,
who's that guy?
Yeah, so
we're bringing this up because there's, you know, it's a good story.
Yeah, so I guess I got in some ways lucky, in some ways good. So and I guess it's backed on a little bit of bad news, I guess. But my the 2018 Chevrolet Volt that I was driving was involved in an accident, and unfortunately was written off. But you know, I was an early reservation holder for the Blazer EV, and contacted the dealer, Barry Cullen in Guelph, who was very helpful in this whole situation. And when I contacted them, because I was thinking of changing my order to potentially an Equinox EV, but now this kind of forced my hand, and it all sort of worked out in the end as well too. When I contacted them about my order, they said, you know what, well, you know, where is my Blazer EV? And they said, well, it happens to be in Ingersoll. It's going to be here in a week. So, and that worked out perfectly. So, and after I got my car, then got my insurance payout and everything, and I was able to get the new car right in the hand. So I've had my Blazer EV now for a little over a week now. I've got a little over 1,200 kilometers on it already. I've driven it quite a bit in the first week, and it's been a phenomenal vehicle. It has I've been seeing a real range of, even in the weather conditions that we've had and stuff, I've been driving at 401 highway range of, you know, 460, 470 kilometers when I fully charge it, which isn't very often. I'm actually charging it mostly to 70%. And so it has a really good highway range. The range numbers are certainly very conservative. I love the climate control system in it. Very good climate control system that uses a heat pump system with a heat scavenging system as well too. So very efficient, very good climate control system in it. So it should get pretty good winter range as well. And 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, all-wheel drive, 288 horsepower. It's, you know, not as speedy as some of the other vehicles in the market, but still, you know, 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds is still plenty fast enough, and still beats pretty much any, you know, gas hole on the market. So so I've been very pleased with it. It's been a very good vehicle, very, you know, fantastic. I'm pretty happy with it, very comfortable, very good ride. So
excellent. Well, it's always good to hear from an owner that is just taking possession of the vehicle and is starting to put on kilometers. It'll be we'll certainly be checking in with you as time goes along. But sorry for the Volt crash, and obviously no one was hurt, so that's a positive. And now you've got another blue GM EV in the family. So we look forward to your reports as time goes along.
Yeah, reports, and of course I'll be bringing it out to meets and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to take a look at it, of course I will have it with me. So
perfect. And we're about to start those meetups again. I'm thinking that we're going to have one at the end of this month, April, if the weather's okay. If you're not on the newsletter, the emailed newsletter, get on it. Send us an email. It'll be in the notes below how you can send us a note to get on that and be alerted about the different events that we put on throughout the spring, summer, and fall.
Mm-hmm. When we get out of this deep freeze. All right. I came across this article when it first came out, and I've noticed it's been getting shared because how many people are like, oh, like your electric vehicle is going to make your bill that much more expensive. And I was just talking to my friend today who has a Kona, and he's like, I don't think we've ever seen our bill really go up, and we don't spend a lot on the bill as it is. And even with it plugged in, we don't see a heck of a lot. But this is an interesting article on this overall.
Yeah, so this was an interesting article, and I think we've been talking about this for a while, is the effect of EVs in the grid and things like that as well too, where most EV drivers that buy the vehicles today, and this is this study was largely taking place looking at, especially in California, where there's been a huge high level of EV adoption. But California is also a state that has very wide-ranging time of use rates as well too. And so a lot of EV drivers, of course, charge their vehicles off peak. And what they're finding is, these EV drivers consuming this electricity is actually helping the utility companies, because they're using power often when they're trying to shed load and when they need that extra demand for base load capacity. And that's actually causing the utility companies to be able to run cheaper power more often. And that's actually, overall lowering the cost of utility projects. And then it also, it's earning more money in a sense for the utility companies, because they make higher margins on those types of power as well too. So it's kind of they're showing this as a win-win basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the utilities have this bonus of being able to do is they can drive really the amount that is used based on the charge they put out at that particular hour of the day. Because we as EV drivers are going to follow the cheaper charge in most instances if it concurs with our schedules. But most, if you're charging at some point at night or where there's ultra cheap charging maybe between 1 and 4 a.m., you'll have EV drivers that follow that in order to get the cheaper rate. And of course, it's saving the power companies the ability to keep the grid balanced, as Eric has mentioned. So it's something that that they have the ability to really to track and to make adjustments based on what they need to happen. And we as EV drivers, a lot of us with our timers in our vehicles are just going to modify the time clock and say, okay, instead of midnight, start charging at 1 a.m. And boom, the change is done.
Yeah. Well, we have that, in Ontario now, a different time of use where if you want to go from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., you get an ultra low rate or something like that. And again, like Eric, like you mentioned, like these companies are finding, this is a great way to shed the power that they're, overproducing. And this is just awesome to see with something like this. I think all of us, we've had, once all those EVs get on, they're going to take the grid down. So none of them have researched anything on vehicle to grid technology in that aspect. But then the other thing we also hear is like, well, you wait till your electric rates are going to be like, and they mentioned some ridiculous amount per kilowatt. And, it's again.
Let's also keep in mind that if it does come to that for whatever reason, if electricity becomes ridiculously priced, there's a whole solar industry that allows you to build your own power plant on your roof Try doing that with a refinery for oil. So there are options, and if things do change, there are options.
Yes, and the solar industry this week as well. We did an article, of course, with the bifacial, talking about those panels being as an east-west stand-up configuration. And the gentleman who did that, Undecided with Matt Farrell, has actually just released a new video. And the perovskite, which is a type of material, rather than using silicone for the solar panels, perovskite, the amount of headway that they know that this is an amazing material, and they're making the headway. And it's just going to put solar panels at yet another, a way above what we currently have, and make it again. It's just like, well, why don't you have solar panels on your roof when it's again, back to efficiencies of everything. The big cell phones that we originally had in the 80s and stuff like that to what we got now. I just see this being the exact same way.
Yeah, and in Ontario, again, we produce over 50% of our power comes from nuclear energy, and it's known for a great base load. But the problem is at night, oftentimes we have excess generating capacity, and many times Ontario is paying its neighbors to take power. So sometimes we're actually paying New York State to take our electricity. And it's like, well, that's where the ultra low rates come into effect is, hey, we might as well give it away cheap at night to our own people versus paying somebody in New York or Michigan to take it. So
yeah,
it's interesting with that. Yeah. All right. So this is an article interesting this week that came up. I saw the first article about Anaheim, and basically that they had bought some Model Ys. But then all of a sudden I came across another article about Brampton, and they're doing their first electric truck. The big thing that I wanted to throw about this was the savings that they are getting. The Model Y, $80,000 over 10 years with gas savings and lower maintenance costs. Some people at first, when they look at that number, they may be like, that doesn't seem like a heck of a lot over 10 years. But look at our gas prices today and what that costs. And the other thing, too, is the Anaheim Police Department. They said that they like the space of it. They love the acceleration of the Model Y. So, get those high pursuit chases. But in general, and then, of course, the lower maintenance costs. You got much less of a vehicle in terms of trying to figure problems out when you're not dealing with thousands of moving parts. Now with Brampton, this is going to be the first electric truck, fire truck they have, and then they're going to be doing 2 more. They mentioned also that the annual savings of at least $384,000. Wow. So yes, the electric fire truck is going to be more expensive on this initial. This is the same with the Model Y to a certain point, depending on if they maybe get some rebates as well, being in California. Yeah, the fire truck's going to be more expensive initially, but $384,000 annual savings, that's got to add up huge. And of course, they mentioned that they have a 12-year lifespan. Does that mean they're going to change over the truck in 12 years? They maybe they do. Who knows? But obviously somebody's been doing some math on this, calculating the fuel costs, emission costs, all these things. And I got to give credit. The mayor of Brampton is Patrick Brown, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Who is part? And it's interesting with Patrick Brown because I wasn't too sure with him at first, and his viewpoints on the environment and different things like that. But I keep seeing Brampton doing some pretty cool stuff. They had the market. I think one of your articles had the light posts with charging in Brampton as well.
Yep.
And so kudos to Patrick for what he's doing here.
Yeah.
It's and again, this is early days for fire trucks. There's not too many to choose from out there. And certainly municipalities like Brampton and other cities like Brampton, they're going to have to go through some testing phase. Obviously, the people that are selling these fire trucks are coming out with numbers that really there's no real backing, because there's no vehicle that's been in someone's fleet for 5 years for you to understand if all these numbers are right. So it's early days, but I am glad to see that some cities are starting to test these theories out. Because at some point, just like how the electric vehicles advance, just like how solar advances, it becomes practical, and not only practical, it becomes fiscally responsible. So it's good that we're starting to look at this, and case studies will be produced from this information. I'm sure the Anaheim Police Department had looked at other case studies that are already out there for the Model Y as patrol cars. And Brampton will be one of the first that starts to benchmark this this electric fire truck.
Yeah.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing, when it comes to like electric city buses and stuff like that, now we're starting to see some that have been on the market now for a few years. And a lot of the preliminary data that we're seeing coming out was the initial cost estimates and savings are actually pretty conservative. And in many cases, they're actually saving more money than people expected. And the life is actually sort of turning out a little bit better than expected. Maintenance costs are a little better than expected. So oftentimes I'm finding a lot of the cost benefits they're doing right now, they're erring on the side of caution for these because they don't really know. And then now they're realizing, well, wait a minute, these things are actually better than we expected. And fire trucks, I think for the most part, I think that's a really good case for these, because fire trucks are one of those vehicles that sits for periods of time. And then all of a sudden it needs to go and hurry to somewhere. So, and often it's usually not going very far. These are, I think it's a great usage case for electrification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we've been talking about municipalities and police and everything for a while now. Chevy Bolt, I think, was one of our first articles with the was it Maryland Police Department?
Maryland and New York City too.
New York City, yeah. That looked into that. So, and of course, since then we've talked about in BC. They have also done, I'm trying to remember what vehicle. I think it was a Model Y as well. So yeah, there you go. It's happening. Now, where do I begin with this?
I've got a good explanation for this. So Catherine Brodsky wrote this article about owning an electric vehicle is madness, and I regret ever buying one. Now, if you actually read the article, she talks about a lot of the great things that EVs have brought to her, about the speed, about the quietness, about the lack of maintenance. All these things are in the article, that she really loves them. What it boils down to is that Catherine lives in a condo, and her condo had told her that, yes, you can charge your EV. In her case, she bought a hybrid that could be a plug-in hybrid. And they had told her you can use an extension cord and you can plug into a regular 110 outlet in the garage and you're good to do so. Well, it seems like her condo made some changes and didn't really update her and changed the rules that you cannot use an extension cord, which she got around. She swapped spots with a neighbor, but then found out that they don't want any cars charging in their garage. So they took that ability away. And now Catherine has a plug-in vehicle that she can no longer plug in at home. And of course is now playing the public charging game, where she's going to different spots and trying to charge up a little bit during office hours or when she's out. And she's finding it frustrating, which I completely agree with. It is frustrating if you don't have a home plug to use. So really, Catherine is not really upset at the EV. She's upset with the ability to charge at home, or in her case, not being able to charge at home. So the article is kind of misguided as to what it's talking about. But that kind of leads me to another story that we talked about on our Twitter feed. And this is about a condo that's in South Kitchener that has decided that they're going to be EV friendly in a big way. And what they did is, I can actually share a photo here. Let's see if you guys are seeing the image.
Yep, I see it, Mark.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This condo in South Kitchener, actually kudos to Rob S., who found this and alerted me to it. But this is a new condo that's built, and what they've done is they've built 9 of these posts that have 4 chargers on it each, and as you can tell by its orientation, it's placed in the middle of 4 spots in the parking. So you now have 36 level 2 EV chargers that are activated by an app on the post, and you can charge your vehicle at home while living in a condo. So just a couple of other shots. You can see the other posts that are spread out. They didn't put them all together. They broke them up into different parts of the parking lot. But what a great way to do this. You have to have the EV post to be protected, and obviously this big concrete block is going to protect the actual equipment. It's placed in the middle of 4 spots. You've got 4 chargers. This is a great step forward for condo charging, and hopefully we'll be able to see more of this as time goes along. But kudos to this development in South Kitchener, and we're certainly happy to see that this has appeared in our neighborhood, actually.
Mm-hmm. So, that's the part that really bugs me about, again, getting back to the media, is like everything that she says that she loves about the car is not really, so there's nothing really wrong with the car.
Correct. It's just the title of the article really is the problem.
Yeah.
It is the National Post after all.
I was going to bring up, this is the National Post. In fact, Eric, I was going to mention that for your article talking about the lithium and the nickel mining, that was Wall Street Journal, which sometimes I find those guys are really great for bashing EVs as well. Anyways, I'm just going back to share here. But, with Catherine, it's like, you bring up all these great things, and really isn't the problem you were getting buying one? Well, let me ask you this. Maybe you should regret where you moved to, the condo that you moved to, because obviously this board is not having very good future thinking about everything as compared to what we just got shown. And, of course, Catherine's not the first person in the first, so to speak, any sort of journalism or social media that I've seen where somebody's complained about being in a condo. And I just saw somebody recently talk about how much they like the fact they have a plug-in hybrid versus just a full electric. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that with their long distance trips, but being in a condo. And so they didn't have quite that same worrisome aspect. But,
I do have to say, she bought the right car for the right job, right? Yeah. She works locally. She's got a car that you could plug into a 110 socket and get a decent charge overnight, and use mostly EV during the day. It's just that her condo board switched the rules on her and really pulled the carpet from underneath her feet. She's upset, and rightfully so. I just think that whoever wrote the article, or the headline of the article, I think they're not connected. So really, it's not as bad as what the headline reads.
Agreed. Yeah. She's mad at the condo board, not at her car.
Yeah. And the last quick thing, like she meant about, you're having EVs forced on us. Well, what's one of the first articles we just talked about tonight with the emissions, showing how much that is being reduced in California and proving that. And it's like, you can say all you want about, the EVs are being forced on us. I'm sorry, we have to do something. When it comes down to it, we're going into year 9 of record-breaking temperatures. The wildfire season has already started in Quebec. We're seeing around the world all these different problems. And you know what? The bottom line is this: you can't keep saying that you have a choice to buy a gas car, because it's actually affecting all of us as humanity. On every level, not just environment, but healthcare, everything. So, I don't have much empathy when I hear this, it's being forced on us. It's like, by 2035, we still have another 11 years to go. My God, look at the technology that we've got now with everything. And I think in 2035, if Silverado's doing like 700 plus kilometers of range, my God, what are we going to get down the road with an even lighter pack, etc. So I'll get off my soapbox now. All right, let's move on. All right, Eric, this is an interesting article you brought up. Again, a little disappointed with our global ranking here, especially, you look at Norway, Iceland, like all the Nordic countries, they're doing amazing.
Yes. So yeah, this comes back to many of the arguments we've been hammering for a long time. In North America, and I mentioned this earlier in the article that, we are lagging in North America. So we talk about the investments into lithium mining and battery production and all that kind of stuff. That's great today, and hopefully will allow us to catch up to the rest of the world. But the rest of the world is ahead of us, and you can see the Europe, especially in the Scandinavian type countries, are well ahead. China is also, way up on the list as well too. Obviously, it's the largest battery market in the world, largest EV market in the world. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's always the arguments that EVs don't work in the cold, but look at the top countries on the list here. They're all freaking cold countries. So they're all countries that have climate that is relatable to many different parts of Canada. So, there's no reason why Canada can't be up there. And on that list, we should be where the Netherlands is today at best, or at worst right now. And, I think we can get there pretty quickly, but and we are getting there, but
a little bit,
yeah,
little by little, yeah. And of course, Eric, to your point, when we look at this slide here, and 8%, this is where things really disappointed me, and I was surprised, of all places, was British Columbia. Yeah. That while they're a leader in the battery electric, they also were increasing their burner mobiles. I love what the guy calls it, a burner mobile, as well. And, look at the numbers, like, 18 million fossil fuel burning cars, but now on Canadian roads, we have 26 million. Yeah. And our population's increased and more people are buying cars, etc. But, this surprised me and quite actually disappointed me, especially being in British Columbia, which has great EV incentives.
Yeah, and it's interesting, taking a look at Alberta's at 0, which I thought was kind of interesting. But looking at the trend though, you do see the gas vehicle production is going up and up and up and up, but then you can see an inflection at 2001 there, or 2021 there. So it looks like it is starting to dip, and I personally think that trend's going to continue. So, especially when gas prices just went up to, $1.80 a liter. So, and availability of EVs are going to be increasing quite a bit over the next year as well, too. So,
yeah,
exactly. And actually, BC, the pretty high rate of fuel out there as well. I think it's over $2 a liter in Vancouver area. So. They're feeling it as well. And of course, when people are feeling it in a pocketbook, it does provide them some thought about, should I be doing something else? Is there alternatives? Is there something else we could do about this? Hopefully more and more people, the light bulb is coming on for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. I never thought about, because I was out in BC, of course, for the Fully Charged conference, and I was like, whoa, $2 a liter. And so here we go. We got these burner mobiles going up. So, yeah. All right. So, Amazon is, a very large company. And I kind of have to say that Amazon, what they're doing here, they're really spending their money, and it is a huge investment to do something like this, but 17,000 delivery vans, and basically to put the charging network in for all this stuff, and then of course the electric that they're using to charge these our solar, wind, other carbon-free sources. And then on top of this, to then do another 100,000 custom delivery vans from Rivian. So they got 13,500 right now. All I can say is, like, if this isn't, really putting your money where your mouth is, and they are doing this stuff, and you know what, it's going to be great to see the impact that this has, not only just for their business and financially, how this affects their business with what they're doing, but also for other corporations, how that might impact them as well, especially when it comes to, anything with logistics and getting deliveries done, and other companies that are not necessarily like Amazon in terms of a consumer product being delivered to their homes, but just, let's say, for example, like a Walmart, and getting all their products to their stores and that. We have, of course, the Tesla Semi has been working with Pepsi. They're having great numbers, really good stuff happening that way. And actually another company has actually put the Tesla Semi beyond and getting great results, beyond its capabilities and that. So again, I feel sometimes with this podcast, okay, we just showed an article with a lady who's upset because when it comes down to it, it's not the EV, it's the condo. But at the same time, I think, hopefully with our news articles, we can show, like, the world is being shaped towards more electrification, but there's a lot of really good things that are happening because of this aspect of things. And, and one of the biggest things I look at with all of this overall is that when those vehicles are done, because, they're doing a lot of kilometers on these vehicles, it doesn't mean that they just kind of go to the graveyard. They're going to be recycled and reused, especially with the battery aspect of things as well. So I just saw there's another battery company coming out to do recycling as well. So.
Yep, things are definitely getting better, Ian. Absolutely, we can see that in a number of the parts of the EV sector. There are bad news stories here and there. We've noticed that the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt articles have been pretty strong over the past, I would say, 8 or 9 or 10 months. Mm-hmm. And that is, I believe, something, as Eric has mentioned, is that the fossil fuel industry is starting to realize that the writing is on the wall. They got to throw everything to make some fear, uncertainty, and doubt because they know that eventually they're not going to be relevant at some point in the future. If they can stave that off for a couple of years, that's more money in their pockets. So it's something in their best interest just to keep the seeds of doubt alive and well out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and seeing this from Amazon is fantastic, and as we said many times in commercial fleets, it just makes so much sense to electrify that segment of the marketplace, and this is such an excellent usage case for electric vehicles and electrification. So it's good to see Amazon putting in the infrastructure as well to set up for this. So. Yeah.
Actually, Jim Farley from Ford just recently said that their fleet sales of their electric van is off the chart. They can't keep them in stock. They can sell as many of them as they can make at this point, and of course they're constrained. But the fleet owners are buying them without question because they can do the numbers, and it just makes complete sense when it comes to cost benefits.
Yeah, and Ford just updated the Transit too. They improved it with a little bit bigger battery now. So
yeah.
And to your point, Mark, about with the gas and oil companies, and even for the companies still selling gas cars, 13,500 is the current delivered Rivian. Basically, these delivery vans are Rivians, but they have an order for 100,000. Okay, let's say 120,000 vehicles that are not burning gas. How many barrels of oil now have you also now lost? Like we mentioned last year, every day, 1.8 million barrels. So, and to your point about the FUD, we've been seeing a lot of ridiculous articles about how these cars don't work, and of course the cold aspect and everything else, and you know, really when it comes down to it, I'm sure that the more people in EVs that we talk to, not necessarily the lady from the National Post, but how many of them would go back to a gas car? Like that percentage is so low. I don't even.
It's very, very low. Yeah, I know in our group that we've done polls, just informal polls, and we're talking 99+% have said I'm never going back to gas.
Yeah. So is the FUD strong right now? But I think over time that's gonna change. And of course, when we bring articles up like this, and I'd be interested in seeing the Ford saying about that, with the amount that they can't keep up, so to speak, with the fleet, the demand needed for that. It's just showing everything that's going to work out well on that. So yeah.
And
Amazon, of course, Jeff Bezos. I mean, like all the billionaires, when they do something crazy like, oh, we're going to go up in a rocket, and it's costing X amount and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's that extremity of, ego, I guess. I'm not sure even how you put it. But seeing the company put this into making things better does, I'm hoping, changes a little bit of the attitude towards, the company and the CEO a little bit too. So. All right. I think that is our presentation.
Very good. Very good. Well, we certainly want to thank everyone for watching this evening or this afternoon or this morning, whenever you're watching this. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. That really helps us. And press that subscribe button if you'd like to be alerted whenever a new video goes up. And of course, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next time when we all get together and talk about the new electrifying news from WREVA. Have a great day, everyone.
And Matthews, one quick thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Shout-outs. My mistake.
Oh, man.
My mistake. I was rushing right out. Ian, any shout-outs?
You know what? My sincere condolences to Matthews for not hitting 70, but you know what? Hopefully you'll be around next year. I think the big thing we got to worry about is that you can get through 7 games with Boston and not be eliminated in 4. That being said, Florida Panthers were about to be eliminated when they played Boston in the first round, and then they took them out in 4 straight. Took them seven games of playing, but anyways, but you know what? I enjoy watching some of this aspect of things, for some of these players and the new records that they're trying to break and stuff. And I felt bad last night with Matthews, but they also played terrible against Tampa. So there's my shout out, Leafs.
Leafs Nation, are you listening to Ian? Eric, any shout outs from you?
I do have a shout out actually, and I think Ian has seen this one already too. But I'm a bit of a Metallica fan,
yes.
And I just saw that Metallica has been working with Iveco on doing electric trucks for their European tour. So their European tour is going to be run with all electric trucks, and the paint scheme on some of these trucks are pretty nice too. They're pretty cool. So
very cool, very cool.
Yeah, I'm just actually kind of seeing if I can quickly go to that, but I'm not sure. I'm going to find it that quick. But anyways, that's okay. It was a pretty cool truck. Let's put it that way. It was very.
Maybe we'll use that as the thumbnail for this show.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting. What was the one Ride the Lightning? Was it? I'm trying to think with, oh my God, my Metallica history is bad. I love Metallica. I'm trying to think if that's right.
Ride the Lightning. Exactly. Makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see my screen here. I've shared my.
We see it. Very good.
Yes, there we go. That's awesome. Yeah, it is such an awesome truck. Yeah.
Very good. All right, guys. Thanks very much. And we'll catch you next time. on REVA's Electrifying News. Good night.
Have a good night.